promise this one has like a ton of mind-blowing insights. By the end, you'll be able to analyze any business like a pro.
That's the goal.
So before we jump into the details, can we just take a sec to define what a business model, even IS, it feels like one of those terms people throw around without really knowing what it means.
You're so right. It can be a bit of a slippery concept. But essentially, a business model is the logic behind how a company creates value for its customers, delivers that value, and captures some of that value back as profit. It's like the blueprint, not just for making money, but for survival and sustainable growth.
Okay, so it's more than just selling products or services then.
Way more. Think about Lego, for example. They don't just sell plastic bricks. Their business model is built on, like, fostering creativity and imagination in their customers.
That's a great point. And speaking of frameworks, that's where this business model canvas comes in, right?
Exactly. The business model canvas is a visual tool that breaks down any business model into 9 key building blocks. Think of it as a shared language for everyone involved in a business, from founders and investors to employees and even customers.
9 building blocks. Okay, I'm interested, but maybe a little overwhelmed. Can you walk us through it?
Absolutely. We can start with the foundation, which is customer segments. This is all about identifying who a business is serving. Are they targeting a mass market like, say, Coca-Cola, aiming for global appeal? Or are they focused on a niche market like a high-end fashion boutique, catering to a specific clientele?
That makes total sense. Like, you can't build a house without knowing who's going to live in it.
Right.
Though.
Exactly.
So what's the next step?
Next, we have to figure out what makes that house unique. That's where value propositions come in. It's what makes a company different and appealing compared to its competitors. What unique value do they offer to their customers? Is it the lowest price, cutting-edge technology, or exceptional customer service? The lecture emphasizes that sometimes the strongest value propositions are not about being the cheapest.
Okay, now I'm really curious. Can you give me an example?
Sure. Let's look at Tesla. Their value proposition goes way beyond just selling electric cars. They're selling a vision of sustainability, a luxurious experience, and even a sense of exclusivity.
I see. So it's about tapping into what customers actually care about, beyond just the product itself. But how do companies actually get the attention of those customers? The world's a pretty noisy place these days.
That's where channels come into play. These are basically all the ways a company connects with its customers. It's like building a bridge between what a company offers and the people they want to reach. Do they use a direct sales force, online advertising, or partnerships with other businesses? It's actually pretty interesting to see how channels have changed as the internet and social media have grown. It's completely different from how we tend to discover new products and services.
Oh, I totally agree. I remember when it was all about TV commercials and magazine ads. Now it's all online reviews and social media recommendations for me.
Right. And that shift has had a huge impact on how businesses approach their channels.
So once a company reaches those customers, how do they actually build a relationship with them? It's got to be more than just a one-time purchase, right?
You got it. Customer relationships are super important. It's all about the types of interactions a company creates with its customer segments. Some companies like a more hands-on approach, like having a specific account manager for important clients. Others, like online stores, might rely more on automated interactions and self-service portals. It depends on the type of business and what customers expect.
So there's no one-size-fits-all approach, which makes sense. Okay, now let's get to the part everyone wants to know about, the money. How does a company actually make money?
Yes, revenue streams. This is the lifeblood of any company. It's about how they bring in cash from each customer segment. Is it through direct sales, ongoing subscription fees, advertising, or licensing deals? One important distinction is between transaction revenues, which are one-time payments, and recurring revenues, which provide a more stable income over time.
That's a really key difference. I can see why recurring revenue would be more attractive to a business, especially in today's economy. But of course, making money requires actually doing stuff. What are the key actions a company needs to take?
Right. That leads us to key activities. These are the most important things a company needs to do to make its business model work. Think of them as the verbs of the business. For a manufacturer, it might be production and shipping. For a software company, it's coding and testing. And for a consulting firm, it's all about problem solving and client management. It really just depends on their unique value proposition and how they get it to their customers.
So each company has its own unique recipe for success, so to speak. What about the ingredients? What are the essential things they need to have to make it all work?
That's where key resources come in. These are the most important assets a company needs to create and deliver its value proposition. They can be physical things like factories, equipment, or inventory, but also things like intellectual property, brand reputation, or even a highly skilled team. For a tech startup, their key resources might be their patented technology and their amazing engineers.
It's like strategically using what you've got to create value.
Yeah.
But no company can do it all alone. They need partners to help them along the way, right?
Absolutely. Key partnerships are crucial. This block identifies all the suppliers, distributors, technology providers, and sometimes even competitors that help a company create and deliver its value proposition more effectively.
Hold on, competitors. Why would they ever partner up? That seems counterintuitive.
That's where it gets really interesting. Sometimes it's about sharing resources to reach new markets, or even working together on research and development. Dr. Boy actually outlines 4 different types of partnerships in the lecture. You have strategic alliances between companies that aren't competitors, co-opetition where competitors work together in specific areas, joint ventures to create a new business, and then the typical buyer-supplier relationships to make sure the supply chain runs smoothly. The goal is to find strategic advantages and create as much value as possible.
Okay, I'm starting to see how powerful these partnerships can be. But we can't forget about the less glamorous side of running a business, the costs.
True, we can't ignore the cost structure. Every business has costs associated with operating and creating value. These costs can be fixed, like rent, salaries, and insurance, or variable, like raw materials, marketing expenses, and sales commissions. Understanding the cost structure is essential for setting the right prices, managing profitability, and making smart decisions. It's all about striking that balance between creating value and keeping costs under control.
Wow, we've covered so much already. I'm beginning to understand how all these pieces fit together to paint a complete picture of a business. But could we look at a real-world example to really bring it to life?
Of course. Let's take a company you probably know, Groupon. It's a perfect example of how the business model canvas helps us understand the inner workings of a company.
Great. I've used Groupon a lot, so I'm excited to see how it all breaks down.
Well, first, let's consider their customer segments. Groupon targets people looking for deals and discounts on local businesses and experiences.
That's definitely me. I'm always looking for a good deal. What about their value propositions? What sets them apart?
They offer a few things. Obviously, discounted prices are a big draw, but they also offer the convenience of discovering new businesses and experiences in their local area. And there's that element of excitement, the thrill of getting a great deal, which plays into consumer psychology.
You're so right. There's definitely a psychological aspect to it. It's not just about saving money. It's that feeling of getting one over on the system. So how do they connect with all those deal-seeking customers?
They mostly operate through digital channels. Their website, their app, and email marketing campaigns are their main ways of reaching people. They also use social media to generate buzz and get people talking. It's a really smart way to reach a large audience quickly and efficiently.
That makes sense. They're all about online convenience, so how does Groupon actually make its money?
Their main revenue stream comes from the fees they charge businesses for each Groupon sold. It's a classic example of a multi-sided platform, connecting customers and businesses and taking a cut of each transaction.
Wow, I'm already seeing Groupon in a completely different light. It's amazing how breaking it down into these building blocks reveals how the whole thing works.
It really shows how useful the business model canvas is, don't you think?
Totally. I'm starting to see businesses everywhere through this new lens. It's like I've unlocked a secret code.
That's what makes it so great. But before we go any further, maybe it would be good to just quickly go back over each of the 9 building blocks.
Yeah, I'm with you. Repetition helps, right?
Right. So starting from the top, we have customer segments. It's about figuring out those specific groups of people or organizations a business is trying to reach.
Okay, and then what makes those people choose one company over another? What makes them stand out?
That's all about the value propositions, that unique bundle of benefits that a company offers, to solve their customers' problems or needs.
Makes sense. And then, of course, they need to actually reach those customers.
Exactly. That's where channels come in, all the different ways a company can communicate and deliver those value propositions.
Right, so they've made contact. How do they then build relationships that keep those customers coming back?
That's where the focus on customer relationships is important. It's about what kind of interactions a company sets up with its customer segments, whether it's personalized, automated, self-service, or community-based.
All right, and now to the part we all want to know about, the money.
Right. Revenue streams, that's how the company actually brings in the cash. It could be through direct sales, subscriptions, licensing, advertising, or even some really creative approaches.
But to make money, there has to be some kind of action, some effort.
You got it. Key activities are those crucial actions a company takes to deliver on its value propositions, reach those target markets, and maintain its customer relationships. And all of that leads to revenue.
And of course, they need the right stuff to actually make those things happen.
Exactly. Key resources. Those are the essential assets a company needs to make its business model function. These can be physical, financial, intellectual, or even human resources. They all contribute to the big picture.
But even with all the right resources, no company can do it all themselves, right? They need to work with others.
You're right. Key partnerships are vital. This part of the canvas looks at all the suppliers, partners, and alliances that can help a company create and deliver its value proposition more effectively and efficiently.
And finally, we have to consider the costs, the expenses that come with running a business.
Absolutely. Cost structure is an essential element. It outlines all those costs a company incurs to operate its business model, and it's crucial for long-term sustainability and, of course, profitability.
Wow, we've been through a lot. I feel like I could give a presentation on this now.
You definitely got a handle on the key ideas.
Thanks to Dr. Boy and his lecture, it's amazing how much we've unpacked from just one resource.
It really shows the value of deep dives like this, wouldn't you say?
For sure. And you know what? Now that we've gone over this, we can actually use this framework to analyze pretty much any business, right?
Exactly. That's what makes it so powerful. It gives you a new perspective.
It really is like seeing the world through new eyes. From my local coffee shop to those huge tech companies, I can start to understand the logic behind how they work.
That's the beauty of the business model canvas.
Yeah.
It helps you make sense of the business world, understand how companies create value, and how they succeed.
It's like I have this secret decoder ring for the world of business.
I like that analogy. But the best part is, it's not just for big companies and experts. It's something anyone can use, whether you're starting a small business or even just working on a side hustle.
Wait, really? I can use this to analyze my own career. That's wild.
Think about it. You have a unique skill set and passions. Those are your value propositions. You have your network of contacts and mentors. Those are your key partnerships. The time and effort you put into developing your skills, those are your key activities. And then you have your goals and aspirations. Think of those as your revenue streams, in a way.
Whoa, that's such an interesting way to look at it. It's like becoming the CEO of your own career.
Right. It's about being proactive and making conscious decisions about your career path.
So, if someone's listening to this and they're inspired to create their own business model or even just shake things up a bit in their work, where do you think they should start?
I think the most important thing is observation. Just start paying attention to the businesses you interact with every day. Look past the surface and try to understand their business model. What are their customer segments? How do they deliver value? What are their key activities? The canvas can be like a guide for your observations.
So, we're turning everyday experiences into learning opportunities.
Exactly. The more you do it, the more you'll see patterns and start to understand how it all works.
This deep dive has been so eye-opening. We've just scratched the surface, but it's made me so much more curious about this.
That's fantastic. That's exactly what we were hoping for. We've given you the tools and the inspiration, and now it's up to you to explore the world of business models.
Well, on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive today. But like we've been saying, the learning doesn't end here. We've sparked your curiosity. Now it's your turn to explore. Look at the businesses you come across every day through this new lens of the business model canvas. See what you can discover.
And hey, maybe you'll be inspired to create your own business model someday. The possibilities are endless.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. And until next time, keep learning and exploring. It really does feel like a whole new perspective, right?
Yeah, totally. And what's great is, like any good tool, you can use the business model canvas in so many ways.
Okay, I've got to ask, was there anything in the lecture that surprised you? Any aha moments that changed how you think about business models?
You know, what really stood out to me was the discussion of cost-driven versus value-driven models. It's not always about cutting costs as much as possible.
I was kind of hoping you'd mention that. We haven't really dug into that yet. Can you explain what the difference is?
Sure. So a cost-driven model is all about minimizing costs at every turn. Think of those budget airlines or discount stores. They focus on being super efficient and offering the lowest prices possible.
That makes sense. But you were saying it's not always the best way to go.
Right. A value-driven model focuses on creating and delivering exceptional value to customers, even if it costs more. Think of luxury brands or companies known for really personalized service. They're willing to invest more to create a premium experience that justifies their higher prices.
So it's all about knowing what your customers really care about and building your model around that.
That's it. And it's not always one or the other. Lots of successful businesses find a balance between keeping costs down and creating value to appeal to their target market.
This is what I find really interesting. I'm starting to see how the business model canvas can be a tool for like not just analyzing, but creating new things.
Absolutely. When you understand the basic building blocks, you can experiment, try different combinations, and come up with totally new models.
Kind of like a chef coming up with a new recipe.
Perfect analogy. You can play with the ingredients, try different amounts, and even add new elements to create something totally unique and amazing.
This is making me think about my own career differently. You mentioned a personal business model earlier. Can you say more about that?
Sure. Think about using the canvas to map out your career path. Your skills and passions are your value propositions. Your mentors, colleagues, and collaborators are your key partnerships. The things you put time and effort into, those are your key activities. And your ultimate goals and what you want to achieve, those are like your revenue streams.
Whoa, that's really powerful. It's like taking charge and becoming the CEO of your own career.
Exactly. It's about taking control and making choices about your career path instead of just letting things happen.
So for our listeners who are feeling inspired to create their own business model or even just change how they approach their work, where should they start?
I think the first step is just paying attention. Start observing the businesses you encounter every day. Look deeper and try to figure out their business model. What are their customer segments? How do they create value? What are their key activities? The canvas is a great tool to guide your observations.
So we're turning everyday interactions into learning experiences.
Exactly, and the more you do it, the more you'll start to see the patterns and develop your own insights.
This deep dive has been incredible. I feel like we just scratched the surface, but it's made me want to learn so much more.
And that's what we were hoping for. We've given you the tools. Now it's up to you to go out there and explore this fascinating world of business models.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into business models. We hope you've gained a new perspective on how businesses work and how they create value.
And remember, keep learning, keep exploring.
Until next time.